NASCAR Live is presented by Nextel. Nextel. Done.
And you're looking at the garage area in the Nextel Cup garage area at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. We're getting set for NASCAR Busch Series qualifying. The Cup cars have yet to practice today. Robbie Gordon was quick in Busch Series practice. A lot of work going on in the garage area here at Atlanta. And we are outside the racetrack. Some of the fans taking in the souvenirs. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Burns, and welcome to NASCAR Live. Let's take a look at today's menu. There's a lot to head your way here on Speed and a lot going on. Busch Series qualifying straight ahead. NASCAR Live again at about 3:10, then again at 5. Trackside. Bobby Labonte will be here, as well as Richard Childress and Kenny Schrader, followed by Nextel Cup qualifying under the lights here on the mile and a half. The NASCAR Busch Series teams had a 2-hour practice earlier today. Let's take a look at who was fast in that session. NASCAR Busch Series drivers, again, a 2-hour practice on this mile and a half speedway. And fast speeds indeed, as Martin Truex Jr., your points leader, and the most recent winner, he won at Memphis last week, tops 187 miles an hour. A couple of dodges there in the middle, Reed Sorensen and Casey Mears. Greg Biffle in a Roush Ford, followed by McLaughlin, Robbie Gordon, and Casey Kane. And with that, we head down into the garage area and check in with our Bob Dillner. Bob?
Well, Steve, one of the threats for the pole today during Busch Series qualifying on Speed Channel will be this guy, Mike Bliss, third quick in that practice. But more than anything, as I know you think you got a shot at the pole, describe to people what type of lap a qualifying lap is for you guys around this Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Well, today is pretty cool in a cloud cover. It should be flat out. I lifted a little bit, maybe just half throttle, then back down. And actually, on my second lap, I passed a race car down the backstretch. So our car was, the Rockwell Automation Chevrolet was real good in race trim, or in qualifying trim, but race trim is a little bit off, so we got to really work on that. But this is a car I won at Charlotte, so I'm pretty happy to be in it.
Do you ever get, going into the corner and go, oh, I should lift a little bit?
Not qualifying. My rule of thumb is when I come to get the green and when I get off of 4, that's how that car is going to act. Then I know how I can run. And if it comes off of 4 really good, wide open, then I know it's going to be a good lap.
Well, we'll wish Mike Bliss good luck during Busch Series qualifying. Let me tell you something, Steve. These qualifying laps here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, I was talking to Kevin Harvick after his lap last year. His hand was a-shaking.
Hey, Bob, how about young Reed Sorensen up there with Casey Mears and the Ganassi Dodges?
He's looking pretty good, too. In fact, this is his home track, so he's looking for a real good run. He had a great run at IRP in his debut. And, of course, he finished really well last week in the James Finch-owned #1 at Memphis. So he is looking for a good run. I think he may be a threat for the pole. He's looking to do well for his parents, his family, everybody, even his fans from nearby towns around Georgia.
Hey, Bob, also, Martin Truex Jr. has never raced here in a Busch car, and he's the only driver to top 187 miles per hour in practice.
Well, I think getting used to different tracks is kind of becoming commonplace for Martin Truex Jr. Of course, he's in good equipment. He's got good people to make suggestions to him, and this is one of these racetracks that Martin likes, especially as Mike Bliss just noted. During qualifying, you basically mash the gas. You trust that race car, trust what your crew chief put underneath your car, and then you just go for it, and he could be on the pole here today.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. Appreciate the update from the NASCAR Busch Series garage. Let's take a look at your Cup points. The chase for the Nextel Cup. Kurt Busch has a win here at Atlanta. Jeff Gordon's been to victory lane here 4 times. Dale Earnhardt Jr. won here back in the spring. Now let's get you caught up again on our menu here on Speed. Busch Series qualifying is headed your way. Trackside, Bobby Labonte, Richard Childress, and Kenny Schrader will be with us, followed by Nextel Cup qualifying at 7. Another edition of NASCAR Live presented by Nextel. Done.
Speed Channel welcomes you to Atlanta. We're on a gray, cloudy day. We are set for NASCAR Busch Series Pole position qualifying. 50 cars have come to this beautiful mile-and-a-half super speedway, one of, if not the fastest in all of NASCAR. And already, first car on the clock, Jason Keller in the Miller High Life Light Ford.
Jason was 21st fastest in practice early this morning, Mike. And the good thing about, I think, today's track schedule is that nobody else has been on a racetrack since these guys practiced. So it's a lot like they left it. But, Larry, sometimes when the track lays here like that first guy, he finds out it's not quite like it was.
Well, I think he's definitely going to find out, Jeff, how much speed is in the racetrack. But the thing I like about this session is I don't think where you drew position-wise to go out, whether it's early, in the middle, or late, is going to make a difference. Very cloudy, very overcast here. I think the sessions should be fairly consistent.
Keller, outside pole sitter here 2 years ago. 30-20, 183.5 miles per hour.
Just a little bit quicker than what he practiced at again early this morning. So like a lot of times here at a place like Atlanta, you carry so much speed, you're barely out of the throttle through the middle of these corners. And a lot of drivers will tell you, I'm going to give you that one good lap when it comes time. You're not going to see my best lap until qualifying time.
And I think we may see some cars pick up on that second lap, because this is a little bit, not as much as Daytona or Talladega, a little bit of a momentum racetrack, getting your speed wound up. Jason actually almost runs the exact same lap on lap 2, little slower, but 30-20 will be his lap.
6th in the point standings with 12 top 10 finishes. Greenville, South Carolina driver.
And trying to get to victory lane before this 2004 season's over.
And as we watch him kind of coast around here back to the garage area, you mentioned that getting to victory lane. I'm really been kind of surprised this team hasn't been able to get to victory lane, because every year it seemed like they would get stronger instead of getting weaker. But it just makes you wonder sometimes about some of the changes that were made on the 22 car, how it affected them this year.
Well, you know, it's cold and flu season when the antiviral Kleenex car comes out. So Johnny Sauter aboard the 27.
It's getting about that season. We have a huge field of cars here, as we've almost had the entire second half of this Busch Series season. We have 50 cars here. That means that we will have 7 cars that go home, and that to be in the top 38, you're going to have to beat 12 cars.
Sauter qualified 17th, finished 8th at Memphis. He is 15th in the standings with 8 top 10 finishes. 1 pole this year at Indianapolis Raceway car. He's led 6 races this season, but not since Raceway Park.
An announcement for his future is supposed to be coming up here in about a week, I think, what he will be doing in 2005.
Do I take it when you say it like that, Larry, that you don't expect him back in the 27 car?
You just never know.
But I sense you do.
Yes, I was going to say inquiring minds would like to.
29.84 for Johnny Sauter on his first lap. The do not adjust your set. It is overcast, and it's been misting a good part of the morning. Initial practice was delayed by rain that lingered from overnight, but the forecast for the rest of the day is for clearing and for good weather for Nextel Cup Bud Pool qualifying, which will not follow this. Instead, it's going to happen tonight. Second lap for Sauter, again right on top of the first. So 2 very equal laps by both drivers. Hi everybody, Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, Jeff Hammond with you once again as we get toward, we're winding down in the NASCAR Busch Series. Big picture racing is something we often talk about, Larry, and it's the idea that when you're running for a championship, maybe you're not always running to set the last lap and set the fastest lap and go for the win. Somebody forgot to tell Martin Truex.
Somebody forgot to tell that whole race team, because even with over a 200-point lead with 4 races to go, that 8-team Martin Truex, they are running every lap like it's the last lap of the race, the last lap of the season. They're going out, they're winning races, they're sitting on poles, and guess what? He was the fastest man in practice earlier today.
To no surprise. Jeff, for the teams that are focusing on this championship, their focus is clear. But for many other teams, has the 2005 season already begun?
I think so, Mike, because this past week, a lot of drivers found themselves changing rides. As a matter of fact, David Stremme in number 32 cars, we take a look, we see Robert Presley getting ready to make a qualifying run, but these guys have already started swapping rides. David Stremme is now in the 14 Navy car that Casey Atwood was driving. Shane Mill is in his number 32 Dodge, while Stanton Barrett has taken over the DCT Chevrolet. And it's just real interesting right now that a lot of teams are electing to use these last 4 or 5 races, in this case 4 races, to let these guys kind of start working with the teams and see whether or not this could be the driver for 2005.
Robert Presley in the Clorox Kroger, number 47 Ford. Second quickest, 30.09.
Let me just put a period on the Martin Truex story here one more time. I think one thing that makes it a little easier for those guys to do what they're doing, unlike last year in the Busch Series where you had 5 or 6 guys that could win the championship, or in Nextel Cup where we have 4 or 5 right now, is it's pretty much a 2-man race. So as long as they can keep one eye on that 5 car, they can go out and do what they're doing, and that's leading laps and winning races.
Second trip for Presley again, same as the first. None of these laps have differed by so much as 1/10 of a second. Let's get down and talk to the point leader. Here's Martin.
And all of this comes off of a weekend at Memphis where he did everything in sight and won everything in sight. The pole position, led the most laps, won the race. Are you setting up for another weekend this weekend like last weekend, Martin?
Well, I sure hope so. Our best pro car's been awfully good all morning, and looking forward to it. See if we can hold it wide open all the way around to get the pole, and got to say happy birthday to Teresa at home.
I just asked him about backing down, guys. He said, why would we? We've been so good. Let's just keep the momentum going.
Well, I guess the contrary point to big picture racing, Larry, is if you go out and win all the races, the points take care of themselves.
That's pretty much the theory in both series, no matter what the agenda is.
And the thing is right now, guys, I like that kind of attitude because it keeps the pressure on the guy in second place. Frustration sooner or later will sit in. If you're throwing your best shot at the guy and he's taking them and kind of like shoving it back down your throat by winning races, hey, what more can you do as far as demoralizing a team and taking some of the fight out of them, and plus putting a little added insurance on that point?
I know what might take a little bit of the fight out of this first lap on Ron Hornaday. You notice down in turn 1 and 2 as he goes through 3 and 4 now, it looks much better now. He really was fighting the car. The car would not stay down, actually looked like it was loose, and he couldn't think about turning the steering wheel. And I think that lap pretty much speaks for itself, 30-43.
Ron Hornaday, the only driver besides point leader Martin Truex to be running at the finish in all 30 races this season, and that is quite an accomplishment.
It's quite an accomplishment, and yet I can understand, you know, Ron Hornaday is going to be leaving Richard Childress Racing. He'll be going to Kevin Harvick's truck team next year. But I know that team's got to be a little bit frustrated. They've been that consistent, but not really finding themselves right in the middle of a point race and not doing one more races.
And what's interesting, he's working with a new crew chief this week, Gil Martin, because his crew chief, Butch Hilton, left Richard Childress Racing to go guess where? Kevin Harvick's truck team.
Heavy skies and heavy hearts here at Atlanta. These were the 10 people who were lost in the Hendrick Motorsports air crash last Sunday. John Hendrick, his twin daughters Kimberly and Jennifer, Ricky Hendrick, Randy Dorton, Scott Lathram, Dick Tracy, Liz Morrison, Joe Jackson, and Jeff Turner. Very vital lives. People who had a lot of giving, a lot of protecting in them, people who took care of others, and people who were joined with one common bond, their strength of faith. Boston Reed on track in the Ditech.com Chevrolet of Hendrick Motorsports, one of the young development drivers, carrying the tribute to the 10 air crash victims on the hood of that car. First lap 30.66, 5th of 5, and he picks up about 7 100ths, which will leave him 5th.
And this is his third and final race in this car this year. He also ran at Richmond and at Lowe's. This is the first time he will be trying to make a start at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and Joe Nemechek will be back in this car at Phoenix and Homestead.
Let's join Bob Dillner on pit road.
Well, Mike, a little bit of a merry-go-round in the Busch Series this week. David Stremme out of the 32 trim spot car, and this guy, Shane Meal, is in. And Shane, this is your first live interview with this uniform on. Congratulations on the ride. Now, how about getting started with a good qualifying spot here?
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, with the trim spot Dodge with Braun Racing has been pretty good. I'm glad they allowed me to do this, and we've signed it for this year and next year. And we're going to go out and try to win these last 4 races and do the best we can. But I just want to send my prayers out again to the Hendrick family and everybody that lost their family members and sons and fathers and uncles and all that stuff. So racing's important, but not as important as your family, and I'm grieving with those people every day.
Gibson on track in the Williams Brothers Lumber Chevrolet, having a toss and catch it down there in the corner.
The car is very nervous, and here at Atlanta, you do not want to have a nervous car in the middle of the corner because you are carrying a lot of speed there, and when it gets away from you, that wall will jump out and bite you and hurt.
Mark won the ARCA race here last year, has 7 Busch Series starts, and 31:57 is going to be about a second off the pace run so far.
And that's about what he ran in practice. And Mark is actually the brother of Paul Menard's crew chief, Tony Gibson.
This lap should be better. Looks a lot smoother.
Definitely a lot smoother, Mike, but you always wonder when you see a guy doing this, is he throttling, is he rolling up out of the throttle a little more to make sure he's got control of the car? Because that was a pretty big catch right there on the start of that qualifying run.
You're right, Jeff. He's within 0.02 of a second of the first lap.
I want to make sure I clear something up that I talked about a while ago. I don't want Wally Rogers to be nervous at home, who's the crew chief for Kevin Harvick's truck. Actually, Butch Hilton is going to Kevin Harvick to look after Kevin Harvick's Busch Series team over there. So everything's cool, Wally.
Now your cell phone can stop vibrating, right, Larry?
See, Larry understands how a crew chief feels, though, Mike. Every now and then, sometimes people start talking about things. It makes you real nervous.
Ashton Lewis Jr. driving for his family-owned team. And as we call this time of year silly season, because you hear a lot of silly rumors about who might go where and who might do what. In Ashton's case, since this team has been unable to find a full-time sponsor, they're shuttering their doors at the end of this season. But some of the promising rumors we've heard is that he and his brother Charlie are under consideration by some major teams for next year.
And they have such a good package going right now. I mean, right now they are 10th in the points, and they have done it with the car looking about like that all year long. They had a great run at Memphis last week, finished 9th. They are a good race team. They have a good combination.
You know what the best combination about this whole program, as far as I'm concerned, is they don't know how to quit.
No, they don't.
They don't know how to just, say, hey, we're beat, let's take it to the house. They're going to run it full season. They made a commitment, and they stuck by their guns. It may have hurt them a lot in the pocketbook, but they've made a lot of believers right now. Ashton puts down a lap that's good enough for 4th place right now.
You know, I can't believe there just aren't businesses in Atlanta and in the cities coming on the circuit that wouldn't want to jump on board and gain some great exposure. Maybe they just don't know who to contact. You scour the web for Ashton Lewis, and you'll find some links. You'll find the right way to get there.
And I know for a fact he was offered some pretty good rides at the beginning of the season. He said, you know what, this is my family-owned operation. We're going to stick it out.
Second lap for Lewis, again within a 10th of the first. He is 4th. Speed Channel coverage of NASCAR Busch Series qualifying from Atlanta is brought to you by Aquavelva. Aquavelva keeps your face toned and fit. There's something about an Aquavelva man. Kim Crosby has just knocked down a lap of 30:49. The junior high school principal from Louisiana, whose background is in dragsters, smoked him.
She really did. I mean, she has picked up from a 31:22 in practice, was able to post that speed. That's almost 0.8 of a second. But Larry, we were watching her through the corner, and she looked extremely good. Just barely out of the throttle. Car looked really solid.
Well, that's the thing. This is a 1.5 mile racetrack, and these guys and girls are averaging well over 180 miles per hour. That is almost 195 or better getting off into the corner.
And on the hood of her car, that was Boudreaux's Butt Paste, great Louisiana product for babies. Martin Truex, point leader. Bass Pro Shops Tracker Boat Chevy atop the standings by 208. Not a narrow margin, but not a necessarily safe one either.
And something we have really not talked a lot about as he completes lap 1. Let's see what this first lap is. 29:38. He beats Johnny Sauter by almost a half a second. But this team, a lot like last year, they almost have all but locked up the Owners' Championship. Why? Because the 8 number was on Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car at Daytona Beach, the first race of the season. So really just a few good runs here in these final 4 races. They'll lock up the Owners' Championship as Richard Childress did last year with the 21 car.
Second lap, a little slower. So Truex is quickest. Let's go to the point standing runner-up. Here's Bob.
Well, Mike, the entire Hendrick organization, of course, racing with heavy hearts this weekend. Kyle Busch, the Hendrick Busch Series driver. but everybody actually that lost their life last weekend outside that Martinsville airport would want to push on. And Kyle, no better way to put this car on the pole here today.
It'd really be nice, but my rival just ripped off a lap, so it's going to be difficult. But all in all, it's been a tough week, and it always will be for the next couple months, but we just got to stick it out. And, you know, the Lowe's Chevrolet's been running pretty decent all day. We got a little bit of work to do, and we unloaded. We tested here, and we unloaded the same way we tested, but we got a little bit more to do, so we'll see what we can work on here.
And, of course, this car, the number 5 that Kyle Busch drives, the car that Ricky Hendrick first began his career in the Busch Series with.
Ricky won as a driver in trucks, drove in Busch, and then moved over to the ownership side and won a championship. I like the way that Kyle Busch says my rival, kind of like George Bush and John Kerry. They don't speak of each other by name. It's just, well, my rival or my opponent.
But they have a lot of they do have a lot of respect for each other, though. And just to go one step further and talk about the support of the NASCAR family, I was walking through both garages, and all the DEI cars have a Hendrick Motorsports emblem on the back of the car, and every DEI employee I saw had a Hendrick Motorsports hat on.
And as Shane Meal makes his run in the Trim Spa Dodge 2970, a lot of folks wearing the blue wristbands that Rick Hendrick created. Life is a team sport, and for the Hendrick Mirror organization, and a lot of folks around the garage area wearing those in tribute and support.
We've been talking about drivers making big pickups. That was a pretty good pickup by Shane Meal. He was 13 quickest in the first practice, and now he's good enough first lap for second. So let's see what he can do on his second lap. Can pick it up a little bit.
He gets about half a tenth, but Jeff, the one driver who did make a big pickup from lap 1 to 2, Johnny Sauter.
Yeah, he really did. We didn't talk a whole lot about that, but I believe Marty Snyder's caught up with him. So find out what he did down there, Marty.
All right, Jeff, but he don't have to tell everybody else. Do we want to do that? Is that okay if he does that?
I think he should. He's already qualified, so don't worry about it.
Okay, they want to know how you picked up so much on lap 2. Good job.
We bottomed out real bad, and this is my favorite race car. We ran it so many places this year, and we decided we'd bring it to a big racetrack. And Kleenex antiviral paint scheme this weekend. It's a pretty cool paint job. I like it a lot, and it's pretty cool. I mean, this is always hasn't been one of my favorite racetracks, I guess, but them guys got the car driving pretty good, and looking forward to tomorrow.
Johnny currently second. Our championship leader, Martin Truex Jr., has the provisional pole position right now. More qualifying from Atlanta in a moment.
Well, let's see. Today's Friday, so that means the Gladiator Garage Work is going to present Trackside at Atlanta tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. New time, same stuff, same panel.
We'll have Richard Childress, Kenny Schrader, and the man, I couldn't think of a better place to come trying to break a kind of a slump, Bobby Labonte.
This is Reed Sorensen, who has jumped to number 2 on the hit parade in the Discount Tire Dodge, 29.55.
Hometown boy right there. Actually won some track championships here running the Legends cars, and I'm sure he's got a lot of fans right here cheering for him today.
I don't know if this is a total surprise, though. He's been fast everywhere he's been this year.
While we were away, Blake Mallory made his run 30.98, 178.9 miles an hour, and the number 51. That will be 11th fastest for his Chevrolet. Same look for the U.S. Navy Chevy, but a new wheelman, David Stremme. Now driving for Fitzbradshaw Racing. Had 1 pole and 5 top 5s for the Trim Spa team this season, led 1 race.
But the biggest thing that he's fighting for right now, he's 11th in driver points, only 32 points out of Kent's position. So he's trying to get into that top 10 in points this year.
Yeah, what better way to kind of like get your new sponsor kind of pumped about 2005 and have them have an opportunity to see you on the stage later on this year in the championship lane.
Pretty good first lap. 29.86, that puts him 5th quickest.
That's about almost a half a second pickup for that team right there. It's a good lap.
But, you know, we saw this a lot at the tail end of last year, Nextel Cup, where drivers were going to a new team for 2004. Joe Nemechek comes to mind, going to the 01 car. He ran the last 4 or 5 races for that car last year.
Well, Stremme qualified right on top of his old car with a 29.72, right next to his old ride, now driven by Shane Meal. So he's 4th fastest. Never wanted to hear anybody interview Alfred E. Newman, so instead, Bob Dillner's going to talk to Michael.
Exactly, and Michael's mad racing this week, but got a question for you. I saw you posing with Alfred E. Newman just a little while ago. Who's better looking, you or Alfred?
I like his persona. He's got a really big head.
He does have a big head.
And he seems to carry himself well. Plus, put my arm around him and, you know, to take a nice picture. It feels like he works out. I think Alfred's got it going on.
I think you got to have a big foot here, though, today, because it takes a heavy foot to get this car around this Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Yeah, that's a great lap by Martin. He really put up a time. We weren't where we wanted to be in practice, so we adjusted the Aaron Stream machine quite a lot. And the last 2 years, we've had dominant cars in this race and haven't won anything. So a lot of pressure for us to step up and make our car fast enough to compete on Saturday. And so far, it's been a little slow.
Well, you never know what's going to happen for Michael, because after all, he's got Alfred E. Newman riding with him this weekend.
Alfred's motto is what? Me worry? And the motto I saw on Alfred's suit for Mad Magazine Racing is unsafe at any speed. Speaking of speed.
Speaking of speed, Kyle Busch put one lap up on the board, and it was a good one, guys. He's second quick right now to 29.46.
And I think he knew that second lap would probably not be any quicker, probably slower.
Well, that puts our two title hopefuls, Kyle Busch in the Pella Windows #5 and Martin Truex, right up there on the top of the board, and an 18-year-old driver is right behind them, Marty.
Yeah, making his third ever Busch Series start. And look at the respect the 18-year-old gets. When David Stremme pulls in, he runs into the back bumper of Reed Sorensen. That's not nice, is it?
I don't know. There's no respect here. I don't understand. I thought we were supposed to be teammates. He's doing a good job. He's doing a real good job.
Yeah, you guys are newly new teammates, aren't you?
Yeah, we plan. Well, I thought we were, but no, we plan on being teammates for a long time. So I'm sure we'll touch again sometime soon.
All right, good lap for you, and not a bad lap for you in your debut in the 14 car here.
Not bad. We've been struggling since we put the Navy Chevrolet in qualifying trim, but race trim we were really happy. So we're trying to learn a new balance of the Chevrolet. We're trying to compare notes with Reed, even though they're still running a Dodge. But I'm pretty happy with everything going so far. So. Hopefully we can just keep her in the top 10 or close to it, and this place you can race all over, so that's what I'm more worried about.
Fifth and third so far for the Chip Ganassi corporate teammates.
Justin Labonte in the Coast Guard Dodge has one ARCA start here. He finished second in 2000. He's trying to make his first Atlanta Busch Series race.
Looks like the Sailors right now are stepping up, Mike, because Justin is another one of those guys that's picked up almost 3.5 tenths from practice. So got it looking pretty good. Looks like he'll put himself solidly in the field.
Of course, what this team is really working on is trying to prime themselves for the full schedule in 2005, the full Busch Series schedule.
29.91 the first lap, 7th quickest. The second lap is a couple of tenths slower. Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch up front so far. Bud Pole qualifying for the Nextel Cup Series. New time, 7 o'clock tonight from Atlanta. Live and only on Speed, along with every qualifying session and happy hour for the Nextel Cup Series the rest of the way. Kevin LePage in the gunbroker.com Chevrolet ripped off a lap of 30.57. That's good for 13th quickest right now of 16.
I had to go check those guys out. I haven't been on that deal.
J.J. Yaley, the Home Depot Vigoro Chevrolet, the 28-year-old from Phoenix. Best start of the season, 7th back in Las Vegas.
JJ is going to be doing triple duty here at Atlanta this weekend. Going to be attempting to qualify his third Joe Gibbs entry in the Nextel Cup race, as well as the IROC race tomorrow afternoon. Fourth and final race, $1 million to win that series.
Live on Speed.
Larry, when he went down into turn number 1, car bottomed out pretty hard on running up the racetrack a little bit. And earlier on in the morning session, they were running in race trim. He was one of the very few cars that I already saw venturing up around the rim of this racetrack and checking out that high line to see what it can be like. Again, you see the sparks down in the middle of 1 and 2. And that can affect you a little bit getting off of that corner.
Well, you make an interesting point, Jeff, because you and I both know if they were working on race trim, they probably had the nose of that car open, and your speeds are not as great as they are qualifying. When you qualify, the speeds pick up, you put tape on that nose, that pins the nose, and that tends to make the car bottom out.
He's pretty quick, and that front valence doesn't move in relation to the ground. It's sucked right down there. 29.85. The first lap for Yaley is a good one. He is 7th fastest. Marty?
Well, Mike, Kyle Busch is second, and Martin Truex is first. Everywhere you go, it just seems like you can't get away from that 8 car, can you?
No, you really can't. And, you know, I'm kicking myself right now. The guys gave me an awesome car here in a Lowe's Chevrolet, and I had to breathe it off at 2. I figured we might as well save it and be a race car instead of scraping the fence and having to go repair something. So, all in all, I don't know if it could have been a 10th, but we'll just look at it as though we're in the race. We're starting second wherever, so we'll go after it then.
So if it stays this way, who leads first lap?
We'll see.
You know,
very funny.
Well, and if there is a racetrack where it's not a huge disadvantage starting in the outside line, because trust me, yeah, you see these guys running right around the bottom of this racetrack today, but in the Busch Series race tomorrow and the Nextel Cup race Sunday, they'll be running at the bottom, in the middle, and as you saw them practicing, against the top.
At the top. And Mike, speaking about top and the top of the game, there's Larry's favorite car on the racetrack, Mark Green, the driver, LaFifi.com. I already told you I'm going to gun.com. I'm not going to go to LaFifi.com or LoveFifi.com.
But I tell you what, these guys, this will be their 4th race of the year, and this team, to be a brand new team out of Eddyville, Kentucky, they've been running awfully good, especially qualifying awfully good.
Been very impressive, and they continue right now. 9th quick on his first lap.
29.93. They need a good lap because this team has no provisionals as Mark tries to make his 190th career start in this series.
But every time we've said that, Mark Green goes out there and he goes out there and just nails the lap and puts the car very solidly in the field. So it's like doesn't bother him none.
And this team is slated to run the full schedule next year. They're running Phoenix and Homestead in these final 3 races after Atlanta. He slows down on his 2nd lap. Good lap for Mark, 9th quickest.
Here's Bob.
Well, last year at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, I spoke to Kevin Harvick after his qualifying run, and his hand was shaking. How about this time? Your hand going to be shaking again after your lap?
It'll have to be shaking to run a 30, whatever he ran, that Martin ran. But this McDonald's Powerade car, Tony Stewart and myself are going to have a lot of fun with it, just celebrating the year that they've had with the McDonald's drive-through pit crew championship. So it's a lot of fun to represent Powerade and McDonald's, and hopefully we can put up a fast lap.
So you're saying you can't put her on the pole?
I'm not saying I can't. I'm saying we're going to try.
How about that? Kevin Harvick going to try to put this car on the pole here today, but that's a good lap by Martin Truex Jr.
Here's Mikey and Alfred.
And you know, the thing that makes it tough for drivers like Kevin Harvick, even though he would be eligible for a past champion provisional, Michael Waltrip, Tony Stewart, is the fact that if they don't make the top 38, if they scrape the wall or spin out or something, if you're in the top 35 in Nextel Cup points, you go to the house. You're not eligible for a provisional.
So here's the Aaron's Dream Machine with Michael Waltrip, who has led 8 of his last 9 Atlanta starts in this series.
Good run for Michael on that first lap, 8th quickest, 29.90. This is a car that ran so well at Lowe's. In fact, very near the end of the race, he was running 3rd when he had that flat tire and had to make a pit stop.
The guys we keep talking, Michael says his car's not very good, but how many times have we seen somebody with the name Newman involved run well when it comes time for qualifying?
Oh, you are stretching so far. I know. I can't believe it.
He's normally not on the hood of the car, though.
That's true.
I'm speechless. Alfred E. Newman, Ryan Newman. I can't make that connection.
Tended to make me speechless, too, but he does that.
Trick or treat. We'll find out during final practice. Will it be happy hour? And if so, for who? Saturday 11 Eastern on Speed. Gus Wasson in the Race Girl Chevy finishing up his run, 30.479. First lap, the lap of record. Derek Cope in the Advil Ford had a big slide and ended up 23rd at 31.65. Rookie Paul Menard had a strong first lap. He is 6th, 29.82. And Todd Bodine had to lift after the car got out from under him in turn 4 of his first lap, and that hurt both his laps. Bodine is 21st at a 31.15.
And that very well, Mike, could send Todd Bodine, I think, for the 2nd race in a row for him in that car. Randy LaJoie, of course, raced that car at Lowe's Motor Speedway, but they missed a show at Richmond.
Let's join Bob Dillner.
Well, guys, look who I found. Jeremy Mayfield. You were talking about the saga with the 6 car. Jeremy, what are you doing in that 6 car?
I'm just going to qualify here for Tommy and help them guys out. And I think Scott never been here and had some trouble this morning. So do the best we can, try to get in the show. And I think Randy LaJoy or Tony Range or somebody out there is going to drive it. So see what happens. Great car. Just trying to help the guys out here.
How much practice did you get?
Got 3 laps.
How's it going to be?
I don't know. We'll find out soon. I think we're coming up. I got to figure out where the car is. I'm not used to looking for that 6 Busch car. We'll find it here, but it should be all right.
I'll let you get going, Jeremy. And the guys, Jeremy told me during his 3 laps on the racetrack, he never turned left. What is that telling you?
Oh, that's not a good thing. It means she's loose. She's bad loose right there. Casey Mears, you're talking about somebody turned him loose. He's 3rd quick on his first lap at a 29.51. And Casey was good in practice, 6th quickest in the yellow Freight Dodge.
A great lap. He started 4th here a year ago.
This is the same car that he's ran so well in at some of the other races this year. His favorite car when he drives the 1 car.
Second lap falls off about a 10.5, but a very strong run. He's the fastest Dodge and his 3rd to Martin Truex and Kyle Busch.
Has a Halloween look to it.
Just naturally.
And that's not a stretch there.
No, it's not.
What do you mean by that, Larry?
You do the math.
Kevin Harvick driving the McDonald's Powerade number 29 Chevy. He started outside pole here in his last 2 appearances, last year and 2001. 5 poles last year, still looking for his first one of this year. And he said he was going for it.
I don't think I've ever known Kevin not to try to go for it. If the car is there, he's definitely going to drive it down in the corner and try to make it happen. Car looks good right now, right on the bottom of the racetrack, turn 2.
This is a 3rd Richard Childress Racing Busch Series entry, along with Ron Hornaday and Clint Boyer in the 21.
Car looked a little nervous getting down into the corner.
Just a little bit. As he pulled it off the wall, didn't look like it was very good up underneath it, but he didn't seem like it affected as far as the throttle's concerned. He held it wide open.
Woo! Second place.
Told you had it wide open.
29.43. That's just 5/100ths off Martin Truex.
That's about a 3/10 pickup from what he ran in practice. See the car right there really juking around on him, and I think he knows it, and he says, there's no way this lap's going to be any better. And he eased out the throttle a little bit and picked it up, and the car was at the apex of the corner taking a set. Car really took off with him.
Strong lap for Kevin Harvick. Well, there is no joy in Mudville. Mudville today is St. Louis, right, Bob?
That's right. 1918 was the chant that Yankees fans, said for a long time for the Boston Red Sox. Now to Kenny Wallace, I get to say, 1982, because that's the last time the St. Louis Cardinals won?
Well, I'm proud of my Cardinals. I know that they didn't give us what we wanted in the World Series, but hey, all in all, when things go bad, you got to justify and just move on. So the Cardinals gave me a full year of excitement, and in the end, I think they just run out of gas, like I have a lot this year. But had a great time all week, going back and forth to St. Louis. But Stacker 2 Chevy's been running good. Hopefully get a good qualifying run here, and then we got a full week with Aaron's Dream Machine on the Cup side. So I'm excited.
What are you going to turn?
I am going to run the guys run a 50. I'm hoping at least run an 80. I was too loose in our practice, so we tightened it up, and I feel confident. We'll see what happens.
Well, guys, we'll hold them to that.
Here's 3-time Atlanta Busch Series winner Mark Martin in the Cotman Transmissions Ford, Roush Racing number 9.
He was 12th quickest in practice earlier. See what Mark can do. 29.99, that puts him 14th quickest. And later on tonight, there's an ASA race here in Atlanta. Mark Martin is going to compete in that ASA race, a division that he pretty much got his start in many years ago.
So he's also a triple duty driver this weekend.
Yeah, Mark said one and done, so he went in and came on in here. But Mark has not only got the most wins here at Atlanta, he leads all of the guys as far as Busch Series is concerned, as far as leading the most laps with 637. And I believe our boy, Mr. Snyder, is down with some more information. How about it, my friend?
I've caught up with Mr. Mears, Mr. Hammond, if that's okay with you. And got just a little bit loose. You have to get out of the gas, and is that what cost you a shot at the pole?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would have to be almost wide open, you know, to sit on the pole. But I had to get out of it a little bit right in the center more than I wanted to. Not much, but it was enough to give up maybe a tenth and a half. And but it's a good run for the Yellow Transportation Dodge. I mean, we were top 5 in practice. If we can back that up and stay inside the top 5 for qualifying, we'd be real happy with that.
Casey was theorizing that Martin Truex Jr. had to be wide open all the way around the racetrack. Otherwise, there's no way he could get a time that quick.
Sure sounded like he was. Casey Kane in the Great Clips Dodge started 12th and finished 3rd in the Nextel Cup race here in the spring. He has 2 poles in 2004, and both came last month, Richmond and Dover.
And this is just the type of racetrack that Casey Kane, not only in the Busch Series car, but the Nextel Cup car, just seems to run so well at.
Flat out and fearless.
Interesting, he's got a good-looking lap coming back to the start-finish line right there.
Car's got a different sound to it.
29.63, 6th quickest. And I think it's where possibly the exhaust pipes are coming out of the car. Like some cars have them coming both out the left side, some out the right side. If you look at Casey's car, they go out the right side of the car. And he's one and done.
So Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch, 3 Chevrolets lead the Dodges of Mears, Sorensen, Kane, and Neal. Behind the headlines, an intriguing look at presidential limousines. November 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. Owensboro, Kentucky's John Hayden in the Spectra Metal Sales Chevrolet, trying to make his 4th race of 2004. 30.57. Right now he's 22nd of 28. Here's Marty.
Well, Kevin Harvick had a great first lap. It was 2nd fastest, and then what did you try on lap 2? That didn't work.
Well, I just, I knew the first lap was pretty good, and I just tried to hold it wide open and just got a little bit free in 3 and 4. But this Powerade McDonald's car, just want to thank RCR for letting myself and Tony do this, and everybody at Reese's for letting me drive this Powerade car. So it's a lot of fun to do the McDonald's Powerade drive-through pit crew challenge and have myself and Tony representing this weekend. It's a lot of fun.
He said as soon as it started sliding right towards the wall, I thought that was a good time to stop the lap. Bob?
Greg Biffle is one guy that can certainly challenge Martin Truex Jr. for the pole here. But, Greg, we were just joking around a minute ago. Can you hold her wide open around this racetrack?
And I told you, come check with me in about 10 minutes. I don't know if the charter car will stick that well or not, but we're hoping to. I didn't get that good a run in practice qualifying, but we'll see. Maybe the blue bracelet will give me enough power to do it, but it's going to be tough. I don't know. I think I'm probably only good for about a 60, but we'll see.
Guy, as he said, he's going to try to hold her wide open.
Hopefully we'll show you one of those blue bracelets as our telecast goes on. They benefit bone marrow research and the Hendrick Marrow Foundation. As we said at the top of the show, there's an awful lot of those in evidence in the garage area this weekend in support. This is Stacy Compton, the Kingsford Matchlight Charcoal Ford. Atlanta will be his 100th Busch Series start.
If he don't pick it up on his 2nd lap, he is going to slow down a bunch from what he practiced earlier. There you see one of the bracelets Mike was just talking about.
They're embossed with "Life is a team sport."
Stacy picked up a little bit on the 2nd lap, but he didn't pick up any positions as far as the field is concerned. He's still 25th, and as you said, Larry, he's back there very close to whether he'll make it or not make it without going to provisional land.
I'd say that's definitely probably provisional land. I think you're going to have to run probably in the mid-30s, maybe in the 40s or 50s, to feel pretty safe about that fastest 38.
One of the guys everybody's got to be looking at right now has got to be Mike Bliss. He was 3rd quickest in practice, Mike.
Boy, he's had a fire lit under him in recent weeks. Mike Bliss started 4th, finished 5th at Memphis, but in Charlotte at Lowe's Motor Speedway, his 70th Busch Series start. This daring 3-wide pass that they're still talking about propelled Bliss to the front, and he got his first Busch Series win.
And you know, Mike, you talk about the fire being lit under this race team and Mike Bliss. It's almost like for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, this team has come so close to winning races. And it's almost like once they finally got that win 2 weeks ago, it gives all of them the confidence that they needed to know, hey, we can do this.
Speaking of confidence, he just went to the top of the pole, boys.
35 for Mike Bliss. How about that?
I'll tell you right now.
I would say Steve Addington has a lot to do with him shutting it down after that first lap. That's his crew chief saying, you know what? I think that's a pretty good lap right there.
Pump up your NASCAR TV weekend with exclusive Bud Pole qualifying live from Atlanta. Gordon, Jr., and Busch lead an explosive group of title contenders.
It's going to be a pole run for Joe.
Bud Pole qualifying live from Atlanta tonight at 7 Eastern exclusively on Speed.
This is Shelby Howard in the Volvo Trucks number 35, the youngest ever ARCA Series winner, 5th in the rookie season in 2002, 3rd place in 03. And Howard's got a good lap going, 30.216 in that Ford. He will race tomorrow. Marty?
Mike, this is a new one. Mike Bliss said the car was awesome, and he knew it because he could smell it. Now, explain that one to me.
You know, coming to get the green, I always base my race car when I come to get the green how good it's going to be. And I didn't lift, and I could smell the tires getting into the fenders, so I smelled rubber, and I knew the thing was hunkered down and really gripping good. But that's awesome, man. I told myself to get the pull, you're going to have to be flat out, and the motor's going to have to actually win the pull. And thank God I didn't have to do a second lap, because the Rockwell Automation Chevrolet is perfect the first lap, and Mark Smith's got a little more on the motor this time, so I figured if we get it, it'd be down the straightaway, and that's the way it was. But, you know, it's close, but someone could still come and go quicker, but hey, that's all I had.
When he climbed out, the hands were shaking. Are they still shaking, Bliss? Just a little bit. This nerve-wracking place. Bob?
Well, Marty, former Busch Series champion David Green has that life as a team sport bracelet on. He's got the GMAC Ricky Hendrick number 5 hat on. And David, I know this is a very difficult weekend for all of motorsports, especially for you, because you were very close to Ricky and that entire organization.
Yeah, you know, quite simply, well, first of all, I got to say, you know, everything is, our prayers are with everybody on that plane, not just single-handedly any one particular one, but, you know, Ricky was like the little brother I never had, and 2 years ago at this race, he hung his helmet up, and he gave my career a second chance, simply single-handedly did that, along with Rick, and today, you know, I wear the hat that he gave me the first time I drove his car at Charlotte. And what an inspiration. And, man, it's like everybody else said, our hearts are crying, and we might not show it at times because we got a job to do, but, man, I miss him already, and I love him to death. And Rick and Linda and the whole family. Lynn, we're just all devastated, and I want to carry Ricky Hendrick's name on forever to show that, you know, to the older guys or the younger guys that it's never over, like he always said. It's going to be okay, I promise. And those words will stay with me forever.
Those thoughts are shared by an awful lot of us here at Atlanta this weekend. Jeff Fuller, TDS Chevrolet, 30.22. Former qualified champ, he'll likely be in the show. Needs to beat one more car to be assured of a spot in the top 38. That's Kenny Wallace, 9th in the point standings. Started 7th in this race last year.
Now, you heard Kenny say in his interview a while ago, and the car don't have a good look right there necessarily. He ran a 30-30 in practice. He said he felt like he could run in the 80s. He's going to have to pick up a half a second to do that.
See how he looks as he gets down in turn 3 and 4. Cars down on the bottom white line, looking pretty smooth, coming off of 4. Sounded good. Let's see if we can find that 80 out of that car.
He found a 70. How about that? 29.75 puts Kenny 10th quickest.
What Kenny should have done with his St. Louis Cardinals is like a lot of people done. He should have taken some Stacker 2 over there. He said they were running out of gas. It's a pretty good pump up.
I think Chris Rice, his crew chief, has said, guys, that's a pretty good lap. Let's shut her down right there. And, you know, I want to follow up on what Mike Bliss was talking about, because I've never driven a race car, but I do know from working with drivers that there's a few things they know if that car is running faster. One, if you've not changed the gear, if it's turning more RPMs. But like Mike said, he knew he could feel that car traveling more. He could smell the tires rubbing the fenders, which told him it was traveling more. He knew that was more speed.
But the one thing, Larry, they keep talking about it, and here we go, we get the chance to watch Greg Biffle. He wiggles the car a little bit down the back straightaway, I guess, to get the car a little more heating the tires. But to run around this racetrack and to sit on the pole, everybody said if you want to sit on the pole, you've got to hold it wide open. Can you imagine how hard it is for these guys who've got all this experience to hold hold this throttle down around this mile-and-a-half speedway through these corners and not lift.
And for the guys that do not hold it wide open, you better believe they don't come completely out of the throttle. They just breathe it enough to let the car take a set.
Biffle second at Memphis. 2 seconds and 1/4 in the last 3 races. 5 wins this season and 2 poles.
This is his favorite car. This car won both of the Fontana races, and right now Greg is third in the points. I would say to some degree, not mathematically out of the points championship. It'd be tough to catch those 2 kids up there, and he's going to be one and done, but it's a good one. 9th quickest for Greg.
29.67 for Biffle. Mike Bliss, Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Casey Mears presently the top 5.
Tough trucks, tight finishes. I'm Bobby Hamilton.
Bumping and banging. I'm Rick Crawford, and you're watching Speed Channel.
Jeremy Mayfield, who may make his second start of 2004 tomorrow in the Country Crock number 6 Dodge of Tommy Baldwin. 30.04, 20th fastest. That's safely in the show. The Aaron's 312 tomorrow, and here comes former series champ David Green, the 94 champion and the 2003 runner-up in the Timberwolf Chevy.
David was 17th quickest in practice. A little bit of a change for this race team. They have had so many engine woes, more than one team should ever deserve to have. They had 2 failures at Memphis, 1 in practice and 1 actually in the race. So a little bit of a change this week. Probably for the rest of the season, they have went to the Menard engine out of Indianapolis this year.
Got a chance to speak to David earlier in the week, and he was pretty excited about that, you know, because they've really had some good race cars. And just about the time when you need to be in that position to have that good finish, they had engine problems and always kind of preempted that. So very frustrating years for the former champ.
It's like a pretty good lap for David. This is a car he ran at Lowe's 2 weeks ago, sat on the Busch pole at Dover back in June, ran at Chicago. See what David Green can do.
'13th fastest, 29.82, identical time to Paul Menard.
Makes 19 cars that has qualified in the 29-second bracket.
So that'll make David 12th since he's ahead of Menard in points. Owner points, that is.
David completing his second lap. See if he can pick it up a little bit. Slows down about a 10th, a little over a 10th, so he'll be 13th quickest for right now.
Here's Bob.
Well, the number 21 car for Clint Bowyer, the hood is up on that car. I am told a little bit of an oil leak underneath the hood. The team is actually changing the oil line right now. Alan Jernigan and the boys, Joe Zielinski, going to work on that car. It should be okay in just a couple minutes, and he will be able to go out there.
They should be okay. They're right now about 9 or 10 cars away from the front of the line, so they should be okay.
And you see the officials right close by because it's a big no-no. You can't lift the hood once that car goes out to the line, can you, without approval and
supervision by the NASCAR officials. Again, it's all an issue of safety. And on the track right now, Jamie McMurray driving for Rusty Wallace in the Duraflame Dodge.
Won the pole at Loudon in his first start in this car. Qualified 7th at Bristol, 4th at Lowe's. Top 10 finishes in 4 races with this team.
And finally got that truck win at Martinsville last week. That was good to see. So now he has won races in all 3 series. Now Rusty will be in this car next week at Phoenix, and Jamie possibly for 1 or 2 more races.
And Rusty was really excited about the fact he's going to get a chance to get back in a Busch car, especially in Phoenix. And that first lap, the car looked real nervous. He's 29th on that after completing the first lap. He needs to go a little bit, boys.
Yeah, because he's beat 8 cars, and Jamie, by virtue of being in the top 35 in Next Step Cup points, has to be in the fastest 38, not eligible for a provisional.
Yeah, that run locks, unless he picks up, it would lock Jeff Fuller into the field in 38th based on the number of cars who qualified behind. Let's see. Nope.
Actually slows down a little bit.
That's going to be borderline for Jamie McMurray.
Don't think that's what they expected coming here.
Conway in the Panasonic Chevy, trying to make his second start at Atlanta. He ran here last October, started 27th, but his lap of 31:02 is not going to make the top 38.
And I don't think that car is high enough in owner points to be eligible for a provision.
Let's go to Bob for an update on the number 21.
Well, Clint Bowyer actually strapping into this Reese's machine right now. They will be good to go. But how about this, guys? I mean, this Atlanta Motor Speedway can be pretty darn intimidating to begin with. This team came here to test, almost rained the entire day, so they got barely any laps on the racetrack. And then they have the oil line actually let loose right before he goes out to qualify. I just asked Clint, I said, "You nervous?" He goes, "Just a little."
He was 16th quickest in practice earlier. We see Mike Wallace now in the 4 car. You saw the car bottom out driving off into turn 1, and it shot the car up the racetrack just a little bit in the middle of the corner.
Kevin Conway's run locked Ron Hornaday into the top 38.
And Mike is pretty much working without a crew chief, and you just cannot keep the car down even through the middle of turn 3 and 4. Tony Lambert just recently left this team, and they're working on the future of a crew chief.
30-70, that will make the top 38 for Mike Wallace.
Mike's got his hands full, but he got a good enough lap in her to qualify for this race. He's got a lot of work to do if he's going to race this race car.
And I know talking to him earlier in the week, he felt awfully good about this car. This is a car that he almost won Chicago with, was leading when they took the white flag and ran out of fuel.
He may be like a lot of guys that elected to get his car ready for the race and not really focus too much on qualifying. And so when he untapes it, the car will be better balanced for sure. But it definitely, he had his hands full during those 2 laps.
And he'll be double duty. He's also going to run the Cup race this weekend, attempt to qualify the Cup race.
Driving the 4 Morgan McClure car.
So first lap is the lap for Mike Wallace. He'll be 26th right now, but will be in the show. Defending Cup champion Matt Kenseth making his 13th Busch Series start in 2004 in the Express, number 17.
His car wiggled with him pretty bad in the middle of turn 3 and 4 when he picked the throttle back up to come back to take the green flag. And, you know, you've seen a lot of these drivers only take 1 lap. The key is how well you get through 3 and 4, come to take the green, because that builds the speed down this front straightaway. He was 11th quickest in practice earlier today. This is the same car that he finished 2nd in the Busch Series race to Mike Bliss 2 weeks ago at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
Matt was pole sitter here in 2000. Picks up Express Personnel Services for this race. Right now, the fastest forward is Greg Biffle, and Matt is going to be 26th with a lap of 30:34. Again, he also has no provisional available, but that lap's good enough to make the show.
That will lock him in.
Larry, you keep pointing it out, but his car has not looked good coming to the green any lap since then, really. It's just very nervous. Again, just almost kisses the bottom of the apron right there, has to chase up the racetrack a little bit.
And I think what hurt him right there is he let those left side tires maybe get below that white line, and of course there's a little different banking right there, but he picks her up 22nd quickest to 30:19.
So Mike Bliss and Martin Truex are quickest so far. An all-new season of The Simpsons begins November 7th, only on Fox. Tina Gordon's best of 2 laps, 31:24. That is 39th of 41 in the Yahoo Microtel Ford. Bob?
Robbie Gordon inside his race car, and he is getting ready to go out and take time. And Robbie, we're just joking around. We didn't think we were going to get to do this interview. You said, don't worry, you're going to interview me anyway.
Fruit of the Loom Chevrolet's been really good. I think we were 9th in practice, and that's about where we were in Charlotte when we qualified on the front row. So qualified 2nd there last time we raced this car, and hopefully we can put it on the stop today.
Well, boys, Robbie Gordon and I were just talking, of course, he and Richard Childress parting ways on the Cup side for next year. Robbie says he is really looking to take this Busch Series team Cup racing next year.
And for a first-year Busch Series team, they've had a lot of success, been awfully competitive, won the race at Richmond.
Yeah, they've been very strong, and I know looking forward to a season on the Cup side. Steve Grissom, former series champ, will make his 270th start in this series. Come Saturday, he also has 9 Cup races at Atlanta.
And the biggest thing, Steve sounds like he has to get completely out of the throttle and stay out of it for a long time. And of course, the quicker cars or even cars in the mid-pack, you've heard them all but just barely breathe the throttle through the corner.
Bad news for the rest of the field is if Grissom does not pick up, he will assume the champions provisional, leaving only 4 other spots for drivers not in the top 38. He's 39th right now and stays there with that second lap. So Grissom will be the 43rd starter on Saturday and will take the final provisional. Bob?
Tony Stewart about to put on his helmet inside the cockpit of this race car already. But Tony, big question, 19th quick this morning. Have you got anything for the pole?
Hopefully we can pick up some. I'm not sure I'm going to run quick enough to get on the pole, but we'll try. Really excited about running for Kevin and Delana Harvick and having McDonald's on board this week. I know I've single-handedly eaten enough McDonald's to keep at least 2 stores in Columbus, Indiana open. So it's nice having a sponsor that you believe in. And, you know, McDonald's has been a part of our program for the last couple of years, and it's nice to be able to run a race for him in the Busch Series this week.
Guys, I'm sure if he gets the pole here, he'll get Big Macs for free for the rest of his life.
And Mike, the biggest thing we want to make sure to mention about Tony Stewart is our prayers certainly go out to Tony Stewart and his entire operation and the family of Scott Latham that was also on that plane. Scott was Tony's helicopter pilot. He was flying up there to give Tony an award in the pre-race, and then he was going to be sent out to Iraq for active duty on Monday. So again, our prayers go out to the family of Scott Latham and the entire Tony Stewart organization.
Oil line replaced Clint Boyer. And the Happy Halloween Reese's number 21. Out to make his 19th, 29.97. That will officially bump Todd Bodine. It will be one of the heading homers in the Ted Marsh number 31.
Had a great run at Memphis last week, finished 4th. He'll race the final race at Homestead because Kevin Harvick will be in this car at Phoenix and Darlington.
6 cars to go. Mike Bliss and Martin Truex are quickest. Blake Feast in the Haas Automation 00. Another car powered by Hendrick engines and carrying the remembrance of the 10 airplane crash victims on the hood, as are all the Hendrick cars. Blake clocks in at 30.35, 28th quickest, so he will make the show for Saturday.
Mike, he had a little bit of trouble in practice this morning, spun out coming off of turn 2 and only was 47th quickest in practice. So, I mean, good pickup for this team, got everything back underneath him, and he went out and made a solid lap.
And this will be his last race in this car this year. Tony Raines will be in it at Phoenix, and possibly, I know he tested this car the other day, Ward Burton at Darlington in a couple of weeks.
Well, let's see what Robbie's got here. Don't be too excited if the first lap is not too quick, because that has been his game plan these last few weeks. Of course, Atlanta's a little different animal than the tracks we've been to.
Yeah, so far I think this is one of those racetracks you need to get up there and get it done the first time back.
Get that momentum when you leave pit road, going through the gearbox.
Nope, it takes a little D-I-Do right in the middle of that corner, runs up the racetrack with Robbie.
And you have a feeling he probably, as he was working that wheel, he was having to work out that throttle just a little bit. Let's see if he can pick it up, though. 29.93, that's almost exactly what he ran in practice. That puts him 19th quickest. And that will be the 21st car to run in the 29-second bracket. I think Robbie knows after that, no more.
All I know, if it scared him anywhere close as bad as it scared me, I know why he lifted. Man, that was close.
29.93 for Robbie Gordon.
Just about,
19th.
Just about kissed that safer barrier off of turn 2.
Mike, we were talking about, you may have mentioned it, the borderline of Jamie McMurray in his 66 car, but he is locked into the field now.
Let's have a look here.
Coming up off that corner, car gets loose, and he got his hands full.
But how many times have we said nobody on this circuit drives a car sideways better than Robbie Gordon?
Oh, too many times, Mike. Too many times.
And that would be your point.
Yes.
All too often.
And of course, and you heard Kyle Busch talking about that while ago, that if he could have stayed in the throttle off turn 2, he feels like he could have picked up that 10th that he didn't run. But normally the only thing that will help keep that car off the wall is not turning the steering wheel, it's rolling out of the throttle and slowing the speed of the car down.
Team Marines Ford for Mike McLaughlin. This will be his 8th race behind the wheel of that car. His best, a 3rd place start and 2nd place finish at Dover.
He was 8th quickest in practice at a 29.87. Car looked pretty good. 29.61, 7th quickest for Mike McLaughlin.
And the best Ford. That's a great lap.
Here right now we only have 2 Fords in the top 20. Mike McLaughlin at 7th and Greg Biffle at 10th. Mike's going to go ahead and run this 2nd lap. Car still looks pretty solid even for a 2nd lap. But he slows down about 3/10. But that's a good run for Mike McLaughlin.
3 cars to go, and the going home list is, well, it's not quite set.
Well, with 3 cars to go, a guy's got to be breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief. It's got to be Jamie McMurray.
Yep, he's in. Duraflame Dodge. Didn't qualify that well, 30.56, but that's going to be enough as Tony Stewart comes out in the number 92 McDonald Chevrolet.
And this car is owned by Kevin Harvick. And this team here, we talked about Butch Hilton going over there as a crew chief. They will run the entire schedule next year, about 10 races with Tony Stewart, and then Tony Raines will run the rest of the schedule. Kevin Harvick just opened a big 50,000 square foot shop up in Kernersville. Had the grand opening last Friday night.
He's definitely got that car on the bottom of the racetrack, down below the white line off of turn 2.
Tony was 19th quickest in practice at a 30.19. We'd anticipate he should pick up quite a bit from that. Car does look awfully good. Good and solid. That puts him 20th quickest. That will bump Boston Reed out of the top 38, puts Kevin LePage on the bubble. Tony's going to go ahead and run his 2nd lap. You know what was impressive? He had those left side tires well below that white line. Unlike a lot of cars, we didn't see the car shoot up the racetrack.
Well, Larry, we've watched him race here enough to know that if there's any way possible, that's where Tony Stewart will be tomorrow as well as Sunday. He'll be right on that bottom, that white line.
So 2 cars to go, and right now the headed home list looks like it will include Mark Gibson, Kevin Conway, Todd Bodine, Blake Mallory, Tina Gordon, perhaps Jimmy Kitchens, and one more. This is Tim Fedowa and the Supercut Chevy number 12. Qualified 8th at Memphis and stands 18th in the standings.
This team is all set for next year as far as Tim being back in the race car, as far as Supercuts being back on board, but a big change manufacturer-wise. This team will be going to Dodges next year, as well as the teammate, the 14 car with David Stremme.
And all that being made possible by the association between Chip Ganassi, Felix Sabates, and the Fitz Bradshaw operation.
Dodge has 7 cars in today's field as they look next year to expand their presence in the Busch Series.
Did you see Tim's car kind of like do a little bit of a sway right in the middle of the corner, like it really wasn't up underneath him like he wanted it to? Let's see how it affects his time.
Not that good, 28th, but he was only 30th quickest in practice earlier. That puts him 31 quickest. That will bump Kevin LePage, puts John Hayden on the 38th spot bubble. Basically 1 car left to go, Travis Geisler.
And I think that's going to present an interesting situation for the number 36, because it will either be that car or John Hayden. That'll be the 7th car to go home. So Fedowa finishes up quicker. 29.96, moves to 23rd.
And I stand corrected. The final car to go out will actually be the 36 car, but with Stanton Barrett in the car.
I got a chance to talk to Stanton last week, and he was pretty excited about the opportunity to work with Ricky Pearson and get an opportunity to get in this 36 car. And it's kind of like a little bit of a driver audition, I think, for Stanton. He may wind up having the opportunity to drive this car in the 2005 season, so he's hoping to get in the field for tomorrow's race.
They need to pick it up from what they practiced, though, Jeff. He was only 40th quickest at a 31.06, and about like we anticipated, it's going to take in the 30.50s to make this show. Right now, the bubble time, John Hayden's at 30.57.
And it is go or go home for Barrett. He needs to beat John Hayden, and Hayden goes home along with Tina Gordon, Jimmy Kitchens, Blake Mallory, Todd Bodine, Kevin Conway, and Mark Gibson. Or if Stanton's not quick enough, that gives Hayden the 38th and final time trial spot in the field.
He's usually a pretty good qualifier, but he used a lot of racetrack coming up off of turn 2, and once again he's kind of high off of 4 here. If he needs to keep his foot in it for sure.
He needs to pick a half a second up from what he practiced. So let's see if Stanton can do it in this 36 car. It happens. 27th quickest, 30.05. So he picked up a full second from what he practiced.
Ricky, get on the radio. Tell him, bring it to the house. We're in.
And he does. There you go.
Good news for Barrett. Sad news for John Hayden, who will join the going home. When we come back, we'll talk to Mike Bliss, the pole sitter, and look at the starting lineup.
Welcome back to Atlanta, where nobody was hotter than Mike Bliss today in Busch Series qualifying on the pole. You said you were going to put her to the floor and never lift. You did it. You're on the pole now. How about this race tomorrow?
Well, we need to work on our car a little bit for race trim, but we aren't so sure that maybe we had our left side tires were a few months older than our right side, so we're not sure if that was part of our problem. But you know, I need to tell Mark Conquest, sorry about saying Mark Smith Motors, but I was with Mark Smith this week, so that's why I said that. But Mark Conquest, we got a great motor here. And Steve Addington, it was a great car for qualifying. I couldn't have had a better car.
Pole number 3 on the season for this guy, Mike Bliss.
And here's your starting lineup for the Aaron's 312 here at Atlanta tomorrow.
A lot of the Bushwhackers there in the top 10.
How about local favorite right there, Reed Sorensen in that 41 car?
Talk about the Bushwhackers. I look at the entire lineup. We have 15 guys attempting to do double duty here this weekend, and a few trying to do triple duty.
Look back through 30th spot.
Good effort by Jeremy Mayfield right there, jumping in that 6 car and getting it in the show.
And a go or go home run by Stanton Barrett.
Thing about this place, you want to qualify good anywhere you go, but you can pass at this racetrack.
And how about Kim Crosby? Big pickup to take the next to last spot on time. The provisionals, Compton, Reed, LePage, Cope, and Grissom will also show you the look of going homers. So on a dreary day in Atlanta, Mike Bliss shines through to capture the pole for the Aaron's 312.